Hi, and welcome to Diversity in the Community. I am so pleased to have a special couple with me today, um, Larry and Persephone Hall. They are so dear to my heart, and I've been trying to get them on here for a long time. So, Larry and Persephone Hall, I welcome you to Diversity in the Community.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We're honored to be here.
Okay, all right. So Larry Hall is a minister at Liberty Christian Center and director undergraduate recruitment and admission at CCSU.
Yes.
And Miss Persephone Hall is a minister at Liberty Christian Center and executive director at Hale Center for Career Development and Connecticut College,
That's
right?
it.
So I welcome you guys, and the reason why I have you guys here today, as you know, I love to spread, and you had it here about put positivity out there. It's because we're trying to put some positive stuff in the community, and you guys are certainly positive. You're out there, and you both work in academia. You work in the church, and so and not only that, you are just special to me. You're one of my prayer partners. Persephone is one of my prayer partners, the youngest one. She
I'm the baby.
she keeps us together. She knows all the new technology and all that kind of stuff. So, again, I am just so proud and thank you guys for taking the time to come out. But I want you guys to tell me something about yourself. Just if you want to talk a little bit about yourself. You want to start with you, Ms.
Sure,
Persephone?
sure.
Yes?
Thank
Okay.
you, Teresa. I'm originally from Canton, Ohio. I moved here many years ago. I appreciated growing up in the Midwest because I feel like, even though my parents are from the South, I feel like those values kind of helped me develop into maybe who I am today. But have never expected to be in Connecticut this long, but I'm grateful, that that's the way my journey went. Actually got married, my first marriage, because I think this is an important part of our story. Not long after I moved here to Connecticut, so I was in my early to late 20s when I did. Had two wonderful children as a part of that marriage, but then we got divorced. And so I spent some years as a single parent, and really had some good quality time with my children. And I do remember kind of getting to a point where I was saying, okay, maybe I'm ready. And so left one church, went to another, and actually met Larry at that church. And we will have been married 19 years this year. So I'm grateful for my life's journey. I, as you mentioned, we're in the church as a believer. I just believe that, God puts us where He needs us to be and where He wants us to be. And I'm just grateful for my journey.
Wonderful. You, Mr. Larry.
Born and raised in Hartford, Connecticut, so I'm the local guy. One of 5 siblings, all boys. I'm the middle. Very active with athletics from an early age, basketball, track and field. A Weaver High School alum, so I was very active high school and then on to college. Very involved as an adult with basketball officiating, ministry, and of course professional life. And married to this wonderful lady right here, and I'm also, I bring a child to the wedding, to the marriage as well. And so we are a blended family, and I know that was one of the things that we talked about, and just excited about how things are going in life right now, and also about our future. Our future together.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I was saying that 19 must be the magic number because the last couple that was on here, they've been married for 19 years.
Really?
Yes.
That is the
yes,
magic
yes,
number then.
That's the magic number.
Good.
As a family, what are some of the values that guide you?
You want to start?
Sure. Belief in God and God being the head, commitment, loyalty, trust, integrity. I think those are the things that guide our unit, and love of family, love of God and love of family.
Yes.
And we've been centered around those items as a foundation and that's how I would answer the question.
No, I'd agree with everything you said. I think the other example of that is that, I don't have any biological family members here, but, and I think to Larry's point, what's been demonstrated is I've been received in as family. So, his mother never calls me her daughter-in-law. She calls me her daughter.
Wonderful. Yes.
And so I'm grateful for, again, his siblings call me sis. It's not sister-in-law. And they treat me that way. And our children. So again, as we blended our children in the family, his mother will say, I called my grandson today. She doesn't say my step-grandson. We don't see it that way. It's just family.
Yeah.
And so I even think about things related to dealing with our aging parents, for example. And so, providing support for family, however it's needed, is something that we've demonstrated. And so I'd like to think that our children, as they're young adults now, have seen that as a value that's been important to us.
Yeah.
I think growth and development, it's been interesting, and again, I'm of a generation where my parents had one job, and generally speaking, they stayed in that job, or stayed with that company throughout the whole time. You know what that means. Whereas our children have watched us, have different employers, have different jobs within those employers.
Right.
And so they've heard us talk about interviewing, they've heard us talk about trying new things. And so I hope that that's also a value that we've instilled in our children, is that there's always opportunity for growth, for advancement, to try something new, to try something different. And the last thing I would just say is, you think it was a word you used, is unity. But what's interesting is I think that's defined in individualistic ways. So for us, it doesn't mean that we're always together.
Right.
Like we talked about one of our prayer partners and them and their children, their family, they're together a lot and all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas we have 2 adult children who live away. They don't live in Connecticut.
Right, right.
And so I think even with that, we've found ways as a family to be unified. Even if we don't talk every week, when we do converse or when we do get together, it's still quality time. It's still unified time. And so I think and hope that they would agree that that's a value that we've instilled in them.
Right, right. I know back in the day, people stayed on the same job for 40 and 50 years. But nowadays, they just move around a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you and I worked at the same company
Yes,
at one
we
time.
did. Yes, we
I think
did.
that's when we first met, right?
Yeah.
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 Yes. Okay. Did you have anything to say on that vein?
I agree with you.
As you look back, what has been the key to your success, you think?
As our family or just me individually?
Well,
Or
I would
either
say
one?
either one. Either one, yeah.
I think I would probably say myself, kind of being true to myself, paying attention to kind of what I'm feeling. I know I worked at an organization once, and I liked the work that I did, but I remember the corporate culture was one that I didn't really appreciate as much. It was a very hierarchical culture.
Yeah.
And so, it was almost like when the president and owner, because it was a privately owned organization, when the president and owner walked in the room, it was almost like we bowed. We had to call people by that had a certain title and above certain things. We had to treat them a certain way.
Yeah.
And so I think I'll say I've learned over the years to just kind of appreciate who I am and what feeds me, as I say, or what motivates me.
Yeah.
And try to always lean into that, not ignore that, but to lean into that. And I think even in our marriage, at work, at church, what are the things that really, I guess, fit kind of the purpose I think I'm here to live.
Yeah.
And lean into that and move into that.
Another reason I wanted you guys to come on too, because I don't know if, maybe because I haven't been around that much, but it's not the norm to have 2 African American a couple that both work in academia, both in the church. I haven't seen that much, and that's one of the reasons I wanted you guys to come, so that you would be an inspiration to somebody else.
Well, thank you.
Because we don't see that much of it. I don't know if that's just me because I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Is that true? Do you think?
What do you think?
Yeah, I know of. I have colleagues that also have spouses in higher ed, but to your point, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know any others that come to mind at the moment besides us that are
Mm-hmm.
you know, Black, African American, and so to that point, I think you're spot on.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, that is part of the challenge for us day to day as professionals, is to be able to find success even within those environments. So
Yeah.
predominantly white campuses. We don't work at HBCUs, so we're still navigating the waters
Yeah.
and trying to have influence and make a difference where we are on a daily basis. And I think that's what's important.
And not only that, not only in the academia, but also in the church.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness! See how special see how special you guys are. We have down here. I know that your family lives in other areas of the country, but what keeps you connected?
Yeah.
I think we talked about
Kind
that a
of
little
talked
bit.
about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything to add?
I think to the point earlier, I mean, they're quote unquote in-laws, but I treat them with
Yeah.
all dignity and respect. And
Yeah.
I think even with them being away, it's always an acknowledgement that because they're so far away, we always need to be available and in a position to get to them at any moment in time. And I've always tried to make sure. And then we communicate, telephone, etc. I mean, they're getting some advanced technology skills, you know,
One of them.
FaceTime, one of the two.
Yeah, not the other one.
And but we find ways to stay involved and let them know that we love them and care for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely true with our parents. I think with our children, it's felt a little easier, maybe because of the technology. Yeah, maybe it felt a little easier with the children.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I am aware that you have aging parents. How do you balance their needs with your full lives? It's a tough one, I know.
It is.
Been
it really
there,
is.
been
And I
there.
think to Larry's point, I know you have. And thank you for your advice and recommendations as we're going through it. I think, again, just probably even without us saying it, we value family. And so, because even at one point, we talked about moving out of the area. And one of the reasons we decided not to is because we didn't want to be long distance from all of our parents. Because Larry's mother lives here in the Hartford area. But my mother's in South Carolina, my father's in Ohio. But one thing I think to Larry's point, as they've needed help, and quite frankly, it's funny, as we thought about this conversation, I kind of thought of like 3 different categories, but it's interesting how they intertwine. So as I think about our family and dealing with our aging parents, for me it was the spirituality and my prayer life that was important for me. Like, I remember praying very clearly to God, God, let us know, let our family know when we need to do something different, particularly with my father who does have dementia. And anytime something would change, we'd get a phone call from my cousin or another family member. Or like with my mother, if there was a diagnosis she needed help with. And so while we're kind of on call, you know, in case there's a need, I really am at peace that God is going to allow our parents' needs to be met however they need to be met. Actually, as a matter of fact, not long, almost a year ago, I was in South Carolina. My mother had a little bout in the hospital, and so my brother was there for a little while, and then I went. And we were so far away, and I remember saying, we need someone to come to our mother's house, you know, a couple hours a day or whatever. And so I started calling around some cousins, and 2 of my cousins named the same agency. I was like, okay, God, thank you. And so called the woman, that's right, called the woman, she came to the house. We basically started using her service almost the next day. And I cried before she left. I was like, I just feel so much better. You know, knowing that I'm so far away, but knowing that somebody is looking out for our mother. And we've got some family there, but we thought, and my brother is so wise in this, he was like, but this needs to be like an employment situation, because we want an organization that has like state, they're following the state laws and the state regulations, and they're bonded and, all of those
Yeah.
technical things that you need in order to do things well and do things as a business, as opposed to a family member who maybe had the best intentions, but, I got to go pick up my grandchild today. Different things could potentially happen.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it just worked out beautifully. And so I personally, because they are my parents who are far away, my aging parents who are far away, try to find regular ways to look out for them or to take care of them. Like, for example, my mother's birthday is in May, and so I usually go see her for her birthday. This year will be a big birthday, so we're all going to celebrate. And again, same with my father, go regularly as we can. But thankfully, we have enough people around who are also our eyes and ears as we need it. So grateful for that.
Yeah, that's good advice that you're giving to people out here that may have the same situation, because of course I was in that situation.
Yes.
My mom had dementia, and I want to say publicly how much I thank you. You were there the night that my mom was graduating, as we say.
As we say, yeah.
That you were there, and you were also at her funeral, and you sang. And I remember a young lady that was from India that said she never experienced anything like that.
Wow.
Because I don't know how their services were or whatever, but she was so touched by the fact how you sang and how you did the praise and worship at my mother's funeral, and I appreciate that. So I know what it's like. I mean, I had my mom and dad both in my home. My mother with dementia, my father had cancer. So I understand that, and people need to know what they need to do in those cases, what they need to do if they have a parent who has dementia. They need to get an understanding of what they need to do, what they need to know about the parent and all that, because a lot of people don't understand. And so the information that you gave will help somebody to know, what they need to do to get help for a parent or whatever.
Because I realize I'm not an expert in that. And I'm not, as much as it's my father and I want him to be okay. One time I did say, well, maybe I'll just live here for a little while. Okay, I come back to my senses. But I realized I'm not an expert. And I wanted my father to have the best care possible for him. And of course, for all of our parents, that's what we want. And so in that moment, we had to make a decision. And again, I'm just grateful for the resources. We actually used a place for mom. I called a place for mom and said, we're looking for this kind of place within this zip code and within this price range. And they gave us 5 options, and they set up the appointments for us. And we went to see them. I mean, because we had a small window of time where both my brother and I were together to go visit these places. So again, it was just extremely helpful to reach out and find the resources that could help us make decisions.
Yes. Larry, your mom, I remember seeing her at the church the last time, and she is a strong lady, a beautiful lady. And I didn't realize until I met you guys later on that I remember your mom when I was younger.
Oh, wow.
I remember seeing her when I was younger. I recognized her. Yeah. So in terms of your careers, let's start with a summary description of your career story. How did you get where you are? How do you
start this time?
I actually, as a college student, was a tour guide, and then worked in residence life, RA, saved some money to live on campus like many students do, and some other things. And it was during that, and also worked in the student center, that around my junior year I decided that I would probably seek a career in higher education. And I did. I made that switch. Like most students, I'm going to go corporate, etc. I switched, and I immediately chose higher education, went on to work at Sacred Heart University. Then I returned to my alma mater, which is Central Connecticut State University. Then I left there and went over to Western Connecticut. I was there for 10 years, and then I returned back to CCSU as Director of Admissions, and I've been there. In terms of the progression, I think I just really paid attention. I had some great mentors, and I had a game plan. And so I went back to school, got my master's. I moved around, I gained different experience, and I networked across the country to a level that I thought I would be prepared. And at this point, having done it for as long as I have, I still do feel prepared, but there are new challenges in this climate. From all different points of view, and then also being an African American man in the position comes with its own set of issues and
Yeah.
concerns as well. So we do our best to navigate, but that was pretty much my trajectory in an abbreviated sense of career and movement.
My turn?
Yeah.
Ma'am.
Ma'am, my turn. When I first started thinking about career, I remember thinking two things. I wanted to be a flight attendant, and then I
Really?
remembered wanting to be a radio, television, communications broadcaster. You didn't know
Really?
that, huh?
No, I did.
And so I chose a college. That was because I did the announcements in high school and actually
Okay.
junior high school and high school. And I loved being a resource person. I loved, I wasn't necessarily afraid of public speaking like a lot of people are. So I thought, yeah, I can do the news. I'll be on the news. And so I was I went to Ohio University, and I was on the radio, and I had a script and a microphone, and I knew the light came on and said we were on the air. And I remember thinking, I'm reading, but I'm thinking, is anybody listening? Is this making sense? Is this microphone on? Like, I remember having that whole conversation with myself. So it helped me realize, even from like a career development perspective, it helped me realize the things that I liked. I liked being a resource person. I liked helping people, like giving people information. But I needed feedback. I needed nodding heads and listening sounds.
Yeah, right,
I needed to
right.
know people were listening.
Right.
And so I kind of switched to organizational communications. And then I was on the Dean of Students Advisory Committee. And he asked me if I had ever considered a master's degree in education in student personnel, because he knew I was also an RA. He knew I was involved on campus in some things related to like student development, if you will. And he said, you could get a degree, you could be a graduate assistant, and so you'd get a paycheck and you'd get a tuition waiver. And I was like, you mean I'd get a master's degree for free? And,
Yeah, hey.
And so I said
Yeah,
yes. So I
right.
started my master's program right after my bachelor's program, because I also realized, all right, if I want to be an entry-level career counselor, I need a master's degree. That was a minimum requirement. So it was a one-year program at the time, and so I did it. And I moved to Connecticut to work at the University of Connecticut, and loved it. Loved working with folks on campus, loved working directly with students. In that role, we also had relationships with employers. So if the employers wanted to come and interview with students that were, my majors, then I would coordinate all that. But it got me interested in human resources after a certain number of years, and
I
that's where
met
we
you in
met.
resource.
That's right. That's how we met.
Yes.
And so I left University of Connecticut and went to Fleet Bank, which is where we met. And then, and again, I was doing the same thing. I was a resource person. I was helping people, get along well at work and mediate problems at work. And again, it was the kind of thing that I love doing. And then then I went to another bank, and then Fleet bought that bank.
Yep.
And I realized, okay, banking, I think I'm done with banking. But I had an opportunity to go work for the company it was Casual Corner at the time. Then it evolved to Retail Brand Alliance, which owned Casual Corner and Brooks Brothers and some other brands. And again, I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed creating things that helped organizations and employees and organizations do their job better. Again, being a resource person. But I didn't appreciate the culture at work.
Okay.
And so I said I need to walk away at the end of the day feeling like I did something that made a difference to somebody. So I went back to higher ed, but I was in human resources at another university, and then got back into career development. And now I've been at Connecticut College for almost 7 years.
Wow.
So what I
Wow.
appreciate about career development is I feel like we're always helping people discover. Students come in and they say, I'm curious about selecting a major. And generally I'll ask them, what kind of things do you like to do? What kind of things do you like to study? What motivates you? And then, kind of figuring out the journey to graduation. I just appreciate that opportunity to help make a difference in students' lives.
Well, when you were in human resources, you helped make a difference in my life. Because I remember I didn't know what to do with an employee. You know, but you was like, Teresa, the employee has to fit the
Job duties.
job duties. You can't make the job fit them. You know, because I felt so bad for a person on one of the jobs, and I remember you. I remember you coming and telling me that. And I was like, oh Lord, I just felt so bad. But I do remember those days,
do.
and I do.
But again, that's what I loved about the work, is that we could strategize together on how to, and again, with my human resources hat on, it was about, can they do the job?
Right.
But because we were able to partner together, we could figure out, okay, either this is a fit or it's not. And we ended up
Right.
terminating that person, right?
Yeah.
But she thanked us at the end of the conversation. But I
Yeah.
felt like we treated her with dignity.
Yeah.
We gave her many chances. We were clear about what the expectations were of the job. And that needed to happen. So I was thinking about that this morning, actually. So again, it's a kind of relationship where we can help make a difference in either an employee or an
Yeah.
employer's life, and that's what I enjoy.
Yeah.
Even when we have to terminate them.
I know you make them feel good. You walk away still feeling good. I deserve that. Young people that grow up, well, African American, I'm talking about us. They grow up and don't see this, so they don't think they can ever be there.
Yeah.
So when and that's like, again the reason why I wanted you guys to come on, because they can see you guys and say that, you know, that could be me too.
Yeah.
But if they don't see nobody else but
Right.
other people, they'll never think that they could be there.
Right.
So it's just so important. The last part we're going to talk about, you both are ministers at Liberty Christian Center. Share a little international.
Yes. Get it right now.
Can't leave. I got to get it right. Share a little bit, about how you are involved at Liberty. You want to go first, Mr. Larry? No. What?
Okay. I've been singing since I was probably 13 years old. And so that's always been a part of who I am. And it's funny, when I was licensed as a minister at another church in Hartford. And then when I went to Liberty, I remember having a conversation with Dr. Keith Bolton, who was the pastor at that time. And I said, you know, I was licensed as a minister at this other church. I'm coming to Liberty for these reasons, and this is what I'm looking for, but I just want to sit for a little while. And so I did. And I think the first choir I sang in was maybe for an anniversary or a special occasion choir. And I don't think I've been out of the choir stand. I think I've been in the choir stand
That's where
ever
you
since.
belong, one part.
I would say that is one part.
Yeah.
And I've had people say to me, I was called to the ministry, wow, almost 30 years ago now. And I've had others say to me that the music ministry will open the door for the preaching ministry.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I do both at Liberty, but mostly it's related to the music ministry.
And you do it well.
Thank you, Teresa. That's a huge compliment coming from you.
You do it well.
You and your talented self.
I don't know about that. How about you, my brother?
Yeah, I head up, I've been in the ministry for going on 20 years, and I head up our new members courses and instruction, which is my primary responsibility at the church at this time. And I get excited about new converts to Christ, or those who may have relocated to the area and joined, etc., and forming relationships. And also just making sure that people are comfortable in who they are, and more so trying to confirm that people need to be comfortable in who God says that they are.
Yes, there you go.
Preaching a sermon.
Yeah, there you go.
Because there's so many things that people can get caught in.
Yes.
And so that for me is what excites me. And also, and I think, you know, as you get older, you kind of pick up things, or you realize you're more like your parents than you think. So both my parents were people who reached out to folks. So I tend to reach out to the young folks while they're away at college, and even the elderly who may be home or not even available to even worship in person. So you know, that's my gifting. That's
Yes.
where I am.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
where I find joy
Mm-hmm.
and peace in terms of that type of involvement.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just also add, Larry is a very analytical person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I often will say to Larry, Larry, I love when you're in meetings because you ask questions that nobody else will ask.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've been on the transition team as well, which is it started when our pastor took a leave of absence, Dr. Bolton took a leave of absence, and then transitioned even through the pandemic and, again, things that we needed to figure out how we were going to add or how we were going to handle. And then finding a new pastor, Dr. Corey James, and I just appreciated like knowing you were there, like knowing you were on those committees, knowing you were in those meetings, because I just value the way Larry thinks about.
Yeah.
I mean, people might be offended to hear that church is a business, but there is a business aspect of church that needs to be handled and handled well. And I just feel that you bring that kind of approach and mind to the process. Again, you think about things in ways that maybe others won't or don't. And I think that's valuable.
Thank you.
And I think that's beautiful. I do. I really do.
Yeah.
What's your dream or your hope for your work at Liberty? What changes you think you're going to make or whatever is your hope for it?
When I think about, again, kind of combining all of the things that I'm involved in professionally as well, I would love to see an opportunity to help our congregation, folks in the community, think about career. And I mean, it could be anything from, I just need a job to make some money. Okay, let me help you understand what it means to fill out an application completely.
Yeah.
All the way to college, and I want an internship, to I graduated from college, need a job. I would love to be able to help people kind of navigate and merge their career interests, even with their spirituality and their Christianity.
Yes.
For me, you don't have to make a decision. You don't have to let go of one part of who you are to do anything. Or, again, what I would advise is find an organization that supports your values.
Yes.
For example, if you don't want to work on Sundays because you want to be able to go to church, then look for that in the kinds of organizations you're looking for. But I would love to be able to have an impact on our members and their career interests and career development, and folks in the community as well, not just limited to members of Liberty, but the community, particularly because we're in the north end of Hartford. One thing I was thinking about what you were saying earlier, how special it is for people to see professionals. I remember a young lady from our church, she was a senior in high school, and her guidance counselor hadn't talked to her about college. That was a problem for me. And so to provide access and information so that people know these things are available to you,
Yes.
that would be amazing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, my brother?
Yeah, I think I just see making sure that the community and members, everyone alike, sees the hope of Christ, particularly in this season, and living that out, walking that out, and in their own authentic self and authentic way, as we say, and also making sure that the community and they know that they are welcome, and to continue to be visible and help support things like the food pantry and educational opportunities or whatever may be there, because there's a lot of need.
Right.
And so, as we always say, sometimes you have to deal with that need before you can deal with anything else.
Their
If
stomach
someone's
is
hungry,
growling,
we always say, but, deal with feeding them before we can start dealing with some other things. But more importantly, always be in a place in the spirit of love.
Yeah.
And that's always what I think of, that we show love one to another everywhere we are. And it might look different in different places and in different venues, but at the end of the day, there's some elements of it that you hope that people kind of see your spirit, see your heart, and be able to make sure that folks understand that there is a God, and have that opportunity to witness.
That's powerful.
I think we kind of talked about this, but I'm asking anyway. how does Christianity influence your professional and family life?
It's everything.
Everything.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
foundation.
Yes.
It really is a foundation. It's interesting. So our oldest got married in November,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember when we were first introduced to him, because they live out of state as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember when I was first introduced to him, and it was like, okay, I hear how she's talking about him,
Mm-hmm.
but is he a Christian? Like, I remember, because for me, if he was a Christian, then to me that would have answered a lot
Mm-hmm.
about where his values are. And so I kind of feel like Christianity is everything. And I also, it's been interesting, you know, as I think about when our children were younger and now that they're older, now that they're adults, our youngest will be 30 this year. So, you know,
Wow.
as they're adults, what we hope is, and the Bible says, you know, train a child in the way, you know,
Right.
and the way they go, and the way they'll go. And so I believe that today what we see is that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Realize that they,
Mhm.
you know, they practice the way they practice. It may not be the way I practice,
Right.
but I'm sure my parents would say I don't practice the way they practice. And so I
Mhm.
respect that. As long as they have that foundation,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that's what matters to me.
Yeah, Christianity is fundamental. I mean, to everything that I'm involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So it translates into work, into officiating, into just family.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is really, it's just the center and focus. You know, it doesn't always have to be discussed,
Mm-hmm.
but you find ways, and I think more importantly, sometimes it's to be an example.
Right.
Mhm.
So you
And
demonstrate.
again, it's, you know, there's just so many ways that God can use anyone, and you just have
Yes,
to, again,
right,
be
right.
clear about your purpose
Mm-hmm.
and how you're being used, and you don't have to answer to anyone. You have to answer
Right.
to
Right.
God, and so to remain focused and constant in that. So,
Mhm.
you know, when I get to work, as an example, when I get to work, my Bible's on my side of my desk. It's, you know, I read it.
Mm-hmm.
So I start my day, at home one way with prayer and
Mhm.
sermons in the morning
Mhm.
before I even get to
Mhm.
work, and then at work, reading of the Bible and prayer. And throughout the day, I might have to sit in a meeting and look for a little guidance and wisdom.
Yeah.
But that's how I see it crossing everywhere.
Mhm.
Parenting,
Mm.
relationships, marriage. It's a demonstration of
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't get it right, then we look for forgiveness and continue to try to
Yeah.
get it right.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You know?
Before I get to my last question for you, I saw a couple of pictures of you being a referee. How you like that? How did you get into that?
I actually basketball was my first love.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
And I had an experience in high school where I transitioned to track and field.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Loved that. And then when I got out of college, I wanted to get back involved. I actually wanted to coach college, and I didn't see that as a traditional
Mhm.
route because I hadn't played. Then an opportunity to officiate came up.
Mhm.
So I've been doing that for over 25 years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
most nights I love it. But
Okay,
I will say that the last 2 years, 3 years between the pandemic and fan behavior and other things, it's just become more and more challenging. But I still love it, and
Mhm.
excited to even be in that environment where, again,
Mm-hmm.
young student athletes get to see
Yes.
us,
Yes.
and even in other areas they get to
Yes.
see people who look like me,
Mm-hmm.
because that's important.
Yes.
And that's what I value even as an athlete, is athletics is just that place where everything kind of intersects. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a great opportunity to learn from people from all over the place. So I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I didn't want to leave that out. I talked about you singing. I want to talk about him reference.
I'm glad you did, because it's an important part of his life.
Yes,
so I'm glad you brought it up.
I know it is. So that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Except that, most people always love her singing. As a ref, you just get yelled at.
but still, it's something you're good at, and it's
That's right.
something that you love.
Yeah,
So
again,
I wanted to mention that.
thank you.
What advice would you leave for others who want to make an impact in their community? Start with you, ma'am.
Well, first of all, I think we have to measure impact small and large, right? Like, I don't think impact has to be, I've built a new building. I
Right.
mean, it can be, and that's great,
Right.
wonderful.
Right.
But it can also be, I made somebody smile today. Or I really listened to someone today. I asked someone how they were doing, and I really cared about their answer,
Yeah.
and I listened.
Yeah.
And so for me, just think where you are and where you have opportunity, and let that be it. I remember when I was in HR, there were times I'm mixing my
Yeah.
industries, where employees would come to me and complain, Persephone, this is happening, and I would always say, are you doing your job? Like, are you meeting the requirements of the job? Okay, now we can talk about the other things. Because if you're going to try to change something, particularly like if you're at work, for example,
Yeah.
the supervisor's got the expectations of the role in mind before you can do anything extra. So sure, doing extra things. I remember we sang together at the bank we worked at, so we have opportunities to do
Yeah.
extra things, but we have to do the requirements first. So how am I meeting the requirements? How am I being an example to others by meeting those requirements? And then how am I, we're multifaceted people, so we don't just
Yeah.
do one
Right.
thing.
Right. Right.
How can I take the other parts of me and allow those parts to have influence as well? And then give it time. It could also take time to see the greater impact. But just don't ever give up.
Wonderful. How about you, sir?
I think whenever anyone walks in their purpose, they're automatically going to make an impact. I don't necessarily live my life talking about, am I going to make an impact? I live my life.
Right. Right.
And because you don't know what someone needs, to your point, a smile, all you did was say hello.
Yeah.
All you did was smile.
Yeah.
You don't know what that means to someone. Obviously, when you sit in certain roles, people see you a certain way. But sometimes you never know how much you've impacted
That's right.
someone. And you can impact them tremendously. And again, in retrospect, sometimes you don't understand what you have until you no longer have it as well.
That's right.
And so that's one of the
That's
things
right.
about impact. We were just talking about this at work the other day, because I celebrated Women's History Month with my staff. And one of the things that I said to them is, obviously I'm not a woman, but it does not mean that I don't have the ability to have an understanding or to use my position to influence an event in what we do as we celebrate women. And that's the way we approach it, is that you just keep being you and be who God's made you to be, and the results will happen, because the Bible says one plants and waters. So you just have to walk in your role and your purpose, and everything else will take care of itself.
And I know that the impact that you guys even coming on, and I tell people that come on the show, sometimes people look for the numbers. But if there is 3 people,
That's right.
2 people that you had some influence on, that said, I can do this, and look at you guys as a couple, or see what you're doing in your careers and see what you're doing at church, and it's inspiring to somebody. But sometimes people look for, I wonder how many people like this, or hundreds of people saw it, but how many people saw it, but how many people did you touch?
Right.
Somebody could be watching and all of a sudden say, oh my God, so that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And like I said, I feel that when television, for my show, Diversity in the Community, is a ministry. So I always try to bring people on that's positive and stuff, and you guys certainly are positive. You are someone that someone can inspire to be like. Aspire, how you say the word? Okay, y'all in education, what am I saying right? Wrong.
Aspire.
Aspire to be like, because there's, not that many of us out there doing what you guys are doing, and plus being in the church, being a part of ministry, and you're really touching other people's lives. And I just, again, I just appreciate you so much. But I want, if you got a message, either one of y'all have a message, I want you to look at your camera and give a message to some young folks out there, old folks, anybody, folks.
Yeah.
Just a message to.
Me first. Sure. Yeah. There's always an opportunity. All you have to do is ask. All you have to do is seek. Find people that you admire and ask them their opinion, ask them for their support. But people love to help. People love to support. And all you have to do is ask. And again, take it one step at a time to get to that next step. You may not know where you're going, but as long as you're continuing to move, you'll make a difference.
Wonderful.
Just dream. Dream big. Don't dream small. Don't limit yourself. And whatever your dreams are, find people to help you. Ask for help. Ask for instruction. Ask for guidance. So many of the people that you look at that you think are X, Y, or Z, they have a story.
Right.
And you always see the end product. You don't know their struggle. You don't know their testimony. You don't know what they've been through. So please ask in order that people will be willing to support you. No one gets to where they are without help and support. So please reach out, regardless of age. You've heard our story, children, family, career, parents. What you heard was we got help.
Yeah.
We sought help. And sometimes help came that we didn't ask for. And so continue to do that.
Wonderful. That's great advice.
Thank you.
Again, I can't say it enough. I know I tried to reach y'all for the longest time. And I can't believe that you're sitting up in here with me. But I want to say from the bottom of my heart, Persephone and my brother Larry, I really appreciate you guys coming on today. And I know that that you're going to touch somebody out there.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate you, and I wish you guys the best with your parents and all of that. You know, I do.
Appreciate it.
So I really thank you. And the audience out there, as I always say to everybody, people are always passing things along that are negative, but this is positive. So please pass it to your children, your family, or whatever. And I really, really thank you guys for hanging in there. I've been on here since 2008. And so, God, I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Good night.